Hi, and very welcome to the MinimumQue Table webinar. Well, it is, of course, in these times, not around the table physically, but spread out on different locations from India to Great Britain, and using the modern tools for collaboration. And we are using Microsoft Teams this time. The topic for our webinar is the gig or open talent. It seems as there are things happening in the market right now. We have had traditional consulting services and outsourcing and managed service provisioning for many years. But now there is some change in the market, and that might be due to the digital revolution, to new ways of working for the workforce. Young people have new ideas on how to work and so on. So we are going to discuss how the open talent market could help both companies and the workforce to develop for the future. We have here 4 guests, experienced persons with interesting thoughts on this topic. So I will ask each of our guests to present themselves in a short presentation. So starting with Avinash Yah, please go ahead and present yourself.
Yes, thank you so much, Johan. So my name is Avinash. I work as head of innovation and initiatives within a manufacturing company called Sandvik. It's a Sweden-based company, but right now I'm located in Bangalore. And the major reason for me being located in Bangalore is because I run a site for Sandvik since last 5 to 6 years, where we are having time and material consultants, connected with multiple companies, and we run an organization over there supporting the IT of Sandvik in various different roles. Thank you so much, Johan.
Thank you, Avinash. The next, Barry, please.
Good afternoon. Yes, I'm Barry Matthews. I'm the managing director of a new consulting business called Resource. Resource's role is to help enterprises to access the open talent economy at scale alongside their other sources of supply, so outsourcing and internal teams and suppliers and automation. I have a relatively longish career, 20 or so years in management consultancy, more around technology and operating model, helping large companies do things better, faster, cheaper. That's taken me through outsourcing and offshoring advisory work, where I've set up and managed my own consulting businesses as well as running other people's businesses. I was running ISG's business in Northern Europe. So yeah, my sort of career has taken me through outsourcing and offshoring, through global business services, through RPA, setting up an automation consultancy, and through digital transformation. And now into the wonderful world of open talent. Very excited about how these different hybrid workforces how you can achieve the right balance when you've set up things correctly to be able to access global on-demand talent. And if it can be done well, when it's done well, it really can be transformational. So I think we're in for an exciting few years in this area of industry.
Thank you, Barry. Johan Backryd, it's...
Yes, thank you. My name is Johan Backryd, and I'm the founder of a consultant company called Copper since about 20 plus years. I've been working as a consultant with many large industries in Sweden and north of Europe. And the last decade I've worked within and been responsible of operations within sourcing teams all over the world. And most lately I worked together with building, managing and developing teams within India and actually within Bangalore and Delhi. And I've done this within the network data center and the cloud operations part, and seen a tremendous shift in the knowledge needed, and having a source at or on demand would be something very, very interesting in these areas. Thank you.
Thank you, Johan. And Ram Mohan, you're the last of our guests, so please introduce yourself.
Thanks, Johan. My name is Ram Mohan, and I'm the President and Chief Executive Officer of Happiest Minds, a 100% digital company. My focus is more on the agile infrastructure, which includes cloud and automation and security. I've been in the industry for 30 plus years. Prior to Happiest Minds, I was in Mindtree heading the infrastructure management and tech support group. Before that, I had started my own company in the infrastructure space, ran it for 5 years, grew it to 1,200 people, and then handed it over to the holding company because they wanted to become operational company. Prior to that, I have worked with Wipro. I started their global infrastructure services. I also have experience working in the US as a systems manager for an electronic commerce company. And I started my career with Digital Equipment Corporation in India, and I have been in the infrastructure and security space all through my career.
Thank you, Ram. Thank you. Sandeep and we will facilitate the discussion. So Sandeep, will you please introduce yourself as well?
Hi everyone, thank you for joining us today. Name is Sandeep. I am with MinimumQue now for leading their sales effort in this region, based out of London. I have been in the IT industry for over 20 years and naturally seen the entire evolution of the sourcing models right through across geographies. I'm just really excited that we are taking this journey together, and really looking forward to the next few years, as Barry mentioned.
Thank you, Sandeep. And myself, I'm Johan Bredberg, and I am EVP of MinimumQue, and I'm based in Stockholm. I have a long history in consulting, both from large international companies and from smaller niche companies. And for the last 10 years, I have been working as a freelance consultant for Swedish international manufacturing industries, and also have had the opportunity to work with offshore resources in India. But now entering a little bit of a new world, a changed world, but still in the main sort of value creating area as consulting, but working with new work models and things like that. And that's what we are going to discuss right now. So let me pose the first question to you, Barry. There is a lot of buzz around the gig economy for a while now, and that has just got louder because of the new normal as a consequence of work from home to avoid pandemic and things like that. But which would you see as the driving forces today for the growth of open talent or independent workforce market? Please go ahead.
Sure. It was I believe it was a trend which was gaining popularity pre-COVID, and then as COVID happened, it's gained huge acceleration. So if you think, many millennials going into the workforce and now into leadership roles as well, and choosing a freelance lifestyle, not choosing to work for the same company for many years, but being able to learn and relearn new skills as technology permeates everything that they do. Choosing to not have to commute into work, being familiar with digital technology, having grown up with it, and realizing there are other ways to make a living other than the traditional ones that we've all experienced for most of our careers. and most importantly, being used to accessing everything as consumers on demand at the push of a button. Whether that's ordering food or ordering transport or ordering shopping, it's all at the click of a button. And yet they're going into workforces, and if they want to hire somebody, then they have to get approval and sift through CVs and wait for 3 months. Or if they want to work with a new supplier, they have to go through a rigorous process to go through procurement and commercial and contractual. And I don't believe that's a sustainable model over the next decade or so. I think access to global talent will be much, much easier, will be through digital platforms which match supply and demand. So there were all of those forces that were happening, and then COVID happened, and suddenly, in one foul swoop, the entire world at the same time had to work remotely. We suddenly all realized, as employers and employees and workers, that we didn't have to be geographically based in the same place as our employer or our client to be effective. We were able to work in a distributed manner remotely using digital tools, just like we are now. And guess what? Employees and workers were pretty happy most of the time. And there's been lots of studies of this. Satisfaction seems to have gone up. And guess what? Productivity has not, in many cases, gone down. And so people are realizing, on both employers and employees and workers, I don't need to do that 2-hour commute every day. I've been working pretty well on a digital platform and enjoying it. And of course, at the same time, businesses who have understandably been put under immense pressure, and depending on the industry that you're in, but just imagine being in high street retail or travel or tourism or cruise liners, like some of my previous clients, just such a difficult time. And so they're trying to reduce their cost base, and they're trying to move from fixed costs to variable. And so you have this increase in millennials and people wanting to work freelance. Somebody told me yesterday, I was on a presentation that Sandeep and I were both listening to, that there are now 77 million freelancers globally. I mean, it's incredible statistics. Gartner say that in 5 years' time, 50% of the world's working population will be freelance. So it was already increasing. And now, of course, it's not just through choice either, of course. I mean, let's face it, think of how many, hundreds of thousands, if not millions, just in the UK have been furloughed and will then be made redundant. And quite a lot of those were working in offices in technology orientated roles. They're tech savvy, they're able to access platforms. They're finding it incredibly hard to find full-time work because so many businesses have a headcount freeze. And so they're looking at these platforms to try to find work. And so you've got this choice for some workers, necessity for other workers, at the same time that employers want to reduce costs. And so that's caused it's created this demand for platform workers being able to access scarce digital talent, which most organizations need, whether that's in software development, in testing, in user experience and creative design, in more progressive areas like artificial intelligence, quantum computing and 5G technology. You've suddenly got hundreds of thousands of people around the world who can provide those skills, logging onto platforms and hoping that employers, large organizations, will access their skills through those platforms. And so it's a meeting of minds. It's a convergence of all of these different forces at the same time. The platforms are seeing 30, 40, 50% growth during COVID. And they're realizing, and it's taken a while because it's been pretty nascent, but they're realizing that actually quality isn't compromised. The productivity benefits, the data to back up everything that the workers on the platforms do. It's secure. Your IP is protected. And so they're realizing there is another way, not necessarily as a replacement to outsourcing or internal employees, but alongside for certain tasks. And so we're seeing an increasing demand for the use of on-demand talent through platforms. And as I said in the intros, it's only going to get bigger and bigger.
Thank you, Barry. Any questions from any of the others around the table?
No, I just want to add to what Barry has said. I totally agree with you, Barry. The point of view that we are having a lot of freelancers out in the market, and they will be increasingly. Is absolutely true. But I'd just like to point out that we should also think about smaller and niche companies, because on one side there will be, of course, a lot of freelancers who will come in by themselves, but let's not discount the possibilities of new age purely digital companies which are nimble, which are smaller in size, and very focused in certain areas. And I think there as well, I think the whole gigging and the open platform is going to get a lot of impetus by them, because as I'm seeing the trend, being a buyer of IT for many years, a lot of good talent, they're avoiding huge companies with a big large workforce, but definitely focused and nimble and smaller size and medium sized companies which are really focusing on specific areas are getting a lot of credibility amongst the young workforce. So I think we'll get some help from there as well.
I think you're right. I think it's an ecosystem play, and so I think organizations who need to access talent to achieve their objectives need to look internally at their workforce. They need to look at expert outsourced suppliers. They need to look at the smaller startup and scale up technology providers, and they need to think about talent. So there's a whole balancing act to getting the ecosystem right. No, you're absolutely right, Avinash.
So, that brings me to the next question, and actually it was for Avinash. You almost started on the answer before I asked the question, so it's great. So at least there'll be a flow. So, now you are a customer, you have your needs. You are seeing that, the right talent at the right place at the right time is such an important aspect of, how you want to move ahead and at the pace that you want to ahead. You as a customer, you as a business, how are you looking at this ecosystem, and what have been your views and challenges that you've seen, right? Even pre-COVID and post-COVID, and what do you think is, how are you going to integrate this into your way of work?
Okay, I would like to start with a bit of background here, Sandeep. So we as a company within Sandvik, we have been very focused on larger outsourcing and collaboration with large size companies. And when we opened up our center in India, we decided that we are going to focus on mid-size and smaller size firm because of the same factor. Even though we did it 5 years back, but the idea was definitely that we should be able to collaborate with companies who are really great in the areas that they are in. And one, the whole COVID has actually taught us that uh, the office space is important, but it is not the most important thing. I mean, today we have around 65, 70 people, working across India, collaborating in a very good manner, and I've barely heard of any disruption except for one or two cases here and there. That is one thing. The second thing is, in the last 3 years, we started to move with a strategy that we are able to integrate with more and more partners and providers where we can get different kind of skills. So when we started in India with the Geography Hub, we started with one specific partner, but slowly and steadily in the last couple of years, we have started to join hand with niche providers, and partners who really have specified skills, particularly in the area of security, in the area of for example, ServiceNow, and where talent is a scarcity. And as I said before, what we have seen the trend is that when you have talented people joining the workforce with these kind of knowledge, particularly in the areas like Splunk and ServiceNow, really hard skill. We have seen a trend that instead of probably lost among hundreds of people. I've seen the trend that they prefer joining smaller firm where it is lesser number of people, and they can actually make a niche for themselves.
Mm.
Mm.
So just wanted to add a point here. See, while it is true that COVID has changed the way of working. No, it's not that working from home was not there in the past. It was very much there.
Very true.
But what happened here is I'll just give an example. What happened here on March 18 of this year, 100% of Happiest Minds people, which is about 2,000 people, we had to just shut down the office and everybody had to work from home. Those kind of changes had never happened in the past. There were few people who were working, and this whole thing changed. But at the same time, let me also give credit to a couple of things. One is that today the internet connectivity, whether it is fiber optic or whether it is any other forms which come to our home, the last point has improved significantly, and that is why we can collaborate very well together. Now, the second important aspect is look at teams. Even though everything was fine, if we are working together, could we have had this kind of collaboration without a tool like Teams or a Zoom? So these things also have significantly aided, the productivity. And Barry mentioned that with all these things, there is no disruption or there is a lesson of productivity getting lesser. On the other hand, in the entire history of Happiest Minds, we have got most appreciation in the last 6 months than any other period in the history of the company.
Wow.
So what it means is, this is a data point which I want to share. So with the right kind of collaborative tools, with the right kind of connectivity, it really doesn't matter. But on the other hand, I also want to tell you one thing. It's not that freelancers were not there in the past. They were, of course, there. Even now they are there, and the numbers have increased. But there are two important things which you have to understand. There is a risk with the freelancer, but at the same time, I endorse the point of what Avinash said, that we can look at the companies which are actually interested in to provide on-demand services, because there you get the sort of discipline and the sort of culture, and also better replacements and all those things, because it goes through a company rather than an individual, where you are having certain risk, because the guy can suddenly say that, okay, I'm no longer interested, I am sick, or whatever it is. There are a lot of risks. So what has helped here is this has opened up an avenue in which you can work with the smaller or niche companies and get as flexible resourcing as you were supposed to have with the freelancers.
And Ram and Avinash, I don't know, but why are you answering questions before even they are put to you? Which is amazing. So it just means that we are so much on the same page, right? With where we are thinking. And that was the next question to you, Ram, right? So here we've got a great mix. We've got two advisors, consultants. You've got a client, and you are a partner to these people, right? So how do you see this this entire what does this mean to you, right? How does you see this going forward from an organization standpoint, and how do you relate that to how MinimumQue is coming up with a way of working for organizations like yourself?
See, let me tell you some of the things here. While it is great that people can work from home with increased productivity, but also there are certain issues. There is the difference or the line between personal life and professional life has got merged. So you don't know when do you stop professional work and when do you start your personal work, right? And you are sitting at home, suddenly you are working, and you may go home. Where do you go home? Where do you go to office, right? So there are a lot of issues, in terms of some of the people may not have a really silent place to work. There can be disruptions. You have to adjust to all these things. And if you really look at what is going to happen in the future, Sandeep, is that I don't believe that it is going to continue like everybody will have 100% of the time working from home. And as Barry mentioned in the beginning, you may not want to go to the office all the 5 days, right? So whenever there are certain restrictions where you cannot do certain work at home, you may want to go to the office and collaborate. Like for example, if you really want to have a brainstorming session in the conference room, whiteboarding, so there you may have to go to the office. So in the future, Sandeep, what is going to happen is there will be a collaborative home and office environment in which you may have to work, some maybe 50%, maybe 60%. That varies with the type of work. But there will be a way in which you are going to distribute your work within the office and home. And it is going to happen, and it is going to be working very well, because we have now seen 100% of the work being done at home. But then in the future, there will be some part, and it is going to be beneficial because, one is nobody need to, for people in Bangalore, we spend, 2 hours one way to reach our office, which is just
so
10
true.
kilometers, sir.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
We don't need to spend that kind of a time, and it can be made to effective use. We may still go to office 1 or 2 days in a week, but majority of time the productivity will definitely increase, and you also will be in a better position, to do a dedicated work at some place and some collaborative work at office. So it is going to only improvise. That is what I feel.
Yeah. I totally agree with you. I think now we've made such progress with technology, which the technology was always there. We just didn't use Teams calls like this with video calls all the time. But we're not going to go back to changing that now that we've discovered how good it can be. But if I just talk personally, as much as I like working from home, I really miss interacting with people, with colleagues, with clients. I can't wait till we can do that again a bit, because I've gained such a lot from personal relationships. But if we are able to do that on a more flexible level, which I think a lot of employers will move to, then I think that's got to be a great thing. So I'm totally with you. Yeah, the people who say, the office is dead and all of this, I think it's nonsense. We will, of course,
definitely
offices, but we can use a little bit more than we have in the past.
Well, that happened to when people said, print is dead. Well, it's still not, right? Exactly, right? So interestingly, in India, they've recorded the highest number of printed books in the past 6 months, which is so strange, right? So while digital is still there, but print is not dead.
Yeah.
I would like to raise the question about tools and platforms. I think the collaboration platforms have really created the opportunity for working from home or off office, like Teams and Zoom and others. And we also have these platforms for matching resources with needs. But my question is there a gap in the tooling for actually work methods when we have appointed people in a team or for a position working remotely? Does that need to exploit more tools for demand specification, for test planning, for project management and things like that? That differs from if you could collect people in a project war room or something like that.
My personal view is yes. I think this area will continue to develop. There are, as organizations take an open mindset to talent, and they will be, across a major complex program, you may well have an internal, management expert resources. You then work with your outsourced supplier, but you may then also work with gig economy and then also physical freelancers. And so you need a way to be able to orchestrate and track all of the activity, regardless of where the talent is employed by, or is located, or is delivering. And there are some tools out there that enable that, but it's again pretty nascent and it needs to develop. So I think as we get into more of an open talent mindset, which I think we will, then I think we will see more and more tools enabling that, supply and demand management, matching supply with the right level of demand, ensuring that we can collaborate in a really, in a cleverer way than we do now. And there will be software which is developed specifically for that purpose.
I think it's not only a gap in the tooling, but I think it's a gap in the demand part. If you look into a large organization where you all of a sudden need to have these quick and shifting competencies, and maybe even changes in tools to be able to use. Now that we have COVID, you have to use the collaboration tools because we are located where we are. But if you have people sourced somewhere, you have to have those possibilities too. And the organization needs to train to be able to both set the demands correct and also have the tools ready in time, because we lock down our PCs, we lock down to protect ourselves, and we invent ways to have freelancers connecting differently because we want to be able to control the information flow. So you have to have a quite rapid shift in both demand as we learn to work together in these different ways, and then also having the tools ready to do this. Otherwise, you'll of course lose the opportunity.
Yeah, and also let me give you another important aspect about these platforms, right? So let us say, for example, a small company in Sweden which wants to really work with some of the best skills, maybe offshore, and there is a small company offshore which has got those niche skills. Earlier there was no way in which these two could be connected. I mean, they cannot go through an RFP, they can't go through a whole process, and these kind of platforms like MinimumQue will only help these two together. Now, what happens here again is that once the platform is developed, it is not enough, because once you get into that, you will start understanding the needs of additional collaborative tools which you are required. And that becomes, necessity becomes mother of invention, right? So the moment you get into this platform, then you start, looking at the right kind of skill matching. Then you need a matching tool. Then you need a project management tool. Then you look at other tools which evolve over a period of time, and it's bound to happen. I mean, just like the way Teams has evolved, many other tools will come and which may be there today, but it is unused, will start getting used. So it is only for the betterment of overall services.
Absolutely, Ram. Barry, I don't know if you heard yesterday, right? PackLife gave an example, right? They have a Slack channel which is integrated with one of their resourcing tools. So all he has to do is write in Slack, I need one so and so, and that's it, right? Yeah. And the job is done. And this is amazing, but it does boil down that there are two aspects which really need to change from my perspective, right? One is the cultural aspect of it, right? Because the entire culture of the organization needs to change in order to bring in a new way of working and adopting. And then it's the tooling part. It's about how you really integrate those two. So yeah, absolutely right, Ram.
I think the other thing to think about is these platforms don't just match demand with supply. There are also ways to think differently and to get new ideas and new innovation and new thinking into your organization. Because if within the four walls of your virtual four walls of your organization, you're not going to know all of the answers. The smartest people always work for somebody else, as I keep quoting Bill Joy from Sun Microsystems, who came up with that. But you can use platforms for ideas, for idea management. You put a problem that your organization is trying to solve, nothing to do with technology. If you look at the guy from NASA yesterday, Steve Rader, who's a fabulous guy. They've done 475 different projects on platforms. Some of them are improving the forecasting or the warning system for meteor showers in space. I mean, they put ideas out there on platforms, and they get groups of experts from around the world to collaborate to give them solutions. They have innovation platforms that they use, as well as, of course, specific expert platforms for software development or testing or business processes or whatever it might be. There's almost a platform for everything. Again, I learned this week there are 700 platforms out there in the ecosystem. So it's becoming more and more complex. But I don't want people to think that it's just about finding a resource, almost like a recruitment platform. It's not just that. Quite a few of the progressive platforms work by putting a challenge out there and having a competition to see who around the world wants to take part in the competition to solve the problem, and then paying the winner of the competition a prize fund. I mean, that's the way Topcoder has been working for 20 years, and so that's very effective. There's some quite innovative ways of getting solutions to problems out there, rather than just matching with a sort of a matching engine, almost like a recruitment platform.
Thank you. I think we'll give the next question to Johan Backryd. Working from home has been a life the last 6 or 7 months or something like that. But for many people, it's sort of instead of commuting to an office or traveling to an industry site, you sit at home or at your country house, preferably. But you have quite a lot of experience of working over large distance, working with remote colleagues, more or less on the other side of the globe. Could you share some of your experiences, what has worked and what hasn't worked, and or what to think of if you're working with remote resources, and maybe from other cultures as well?
Of course, one of the biggest issues, or issues, maybe that's the wrong, but one of the biggest things you need to think of is first, of course, when you have different time zones. That is something that our technology doesn't solve, at least not now. So you have to have that in mind. And since I've worked within operations for quite a long time, time has been kind of the one time has been the factor that's always been driven. So you work early mornings because you have calls with those who have schedules ahead of you, or you work maybe early nights or in the middle of the night because you have people in other areas. And I think that doesn't go away, and you have to have this keep this in mind. So if we talk from the perspective, or speak from the perspective of using resources, first of all, you have to find out, are they in the same time zone? That sounds like a small thing, but starting there is quite important. Maybe you have, as a company, your team all over the world, and then that's not the problem, because you have teams in different time zones that can support this. So when you've started with that and solving that, how you actually work, then you can go into the collaboration part. And when you start talking about the collaboration of long distances and cultures, I would say, or I have said like this, that I don't expect myself to understand every different culture, because you have to grow up there. You have to kind of get to the point to say that, okay, I understand that I don't understand everything. I have to know when am I out of bounds, when do I need help, when do I need support, someone who has done this a long time before, maybe have seen questions like this raised previously. So when you have that understanding, of course, it's more not easy, but it makes it easier to have a dialogue and a plan. And you have to add in the travel part. Now we have a very special situation. Maybe that goes on for a long time and we have to get used to that. But if I look into the past where I've been, travel both to visit the site and the teams, to actually get to know people, like you said, Barry, to actually interact. Something that both is interesting and fun, and build a team. You can never get rid of that. And travel the other way also, of course, having the team come to you and see, what are we actually building? What is the company I'm working for? It's not just a dot on a map somewhere. It's not a win or lose situation, but it's maybe refining the delivery if you're talking about a longer period of time. So going back to it, of course, finding the different time zones that you work in. You have to find someone to work with that has an understanding or the experience of your or the other cultures that you're working with. Having that mentorship is very important. And then also, if you have the possibilities, don't underestimate to actually meet more in person, maybe discuss something else than work. Like Sandeep, you asked the question before, when do you actually stop working and when do you start working? Having those discussions with your team is quite important too.
I wonder,
Thank you, Johan. Avinash, you're a living bridge of culture between India and Sweden. Could you also comment on this a little bit?
Absolutely. And I think, few of the dilemmas we need to always understand. I can give you real life examples. When you say I need a senior Java resource, that can mean so many different things to different people. In Sweden, when you say I need a senior Java resource, you're talking about somebody like having 15, 17 years of experience, life experience. In India, that can actually translate to somebody having 3 to 4 years of experience calling themselves a senior Java resource on CV. And I'm not really discounting the talent here. Let me be very clear about it. They are technologically, the people may be on par, but when you ask for example, a senior resource, you want not just the technology experience, but you also want the life experience to come with it. There are many facets that you develop when you gain years and decades of experience, right? So that's just one example. The second could be, what you call people. It's coming from Sweden. Most of the people are called, say, data engineer. I need a data engineer, right? And that data engineer could be anything. If you come to a situation like India, if you call a data engineer, we are probably talking about somebody having 2-3 years of experience. I think after that, they will start calling themselves a senior data engineer, not just a data engineer. I'm sure Ram will endorse that part. Otherwise, it will be hard to even hire them, right? The third thing is basically how we describe the jobs. It's very important when we describe the job, when we say it should be good communication skills. A good communication skill again varies. What you really mean by good communication skill, and how do you get them on a scale? What is needed in that company? What kind of company it is, right? What kind of people will actually thrive in that company. I think those are the aspects that are going to be very important to capture when we talk about open platform, because we are also, previously when you actually have partners, you actually, or even today when you have partners, you actually have coordinators with you. You have on-site coordinator, you have offshore coordinator. There are people whom you interact with all the time. So if you're gonna collaborate with freelancers and very small companies, as Ram said, a small company in Sweden collaborating with a small company in India or Poland or somewhere else, how are you going to do the relationship management? How are you going to ensure that people are understood, the needs of the manager, the unsaid needs that I say, which you can't write on the job description. How is that understood and matched? I think that is going to be a challenge which needs to be really fixed. I'm not very worried about technology, because we have been Linux. I think that has been a collaboration, living example of collaboration, worldwide since many years, right? It's an epitome of collaboration in my eyes. How Linux as an operating system, has been contributed by people all across the world. So technology, I really think, will fix itself. I think the cultural aspect and understanding the dilemmas and the needs and what I just said, unsaid needs is something that is important to focus on.
Thank you. Barry, I thought I interrupted you when you were on your way saying anything.
Well, I was just going to pick up on something that Johan said, which I thought is really interesting. I think as we progress through the next few years, depending on what happens with how we go back to working, I think work will become very much less somewhere we go. So society will change. When you say, "Oh, I'm off to work," and typically that would mean you're going to an office somewhere, right? And I think we will see less and less of that. Work will be something that we do rather than somewhere we go. And I think the other thing that we have to accept, and whether we like it or not, and it will mean some significant changes to the way we live. But there won't be a 9 to 5 working day. We will get used to doing things as and when we need to, 7 days a week, 24/7, and we'll have to make our own free time. And if that's right, then that really changes the way society works. Right? Our evenings won't be free, our weekends won't be free, and I suppose it's up to us as different societies to try and not regulate that, but try and control that so we don't all become workaholics. But the fact that digital platforms and technology will enable us to work, where someone was calling it a martini. This probably won't translate actually, but in the UK we used to have an advert for the drink martini, which was anytime, any place, anywhere. And so these martini workers, which can work anytime, any place, anywhere, you have ultimate flexibility, but it really does start to impinge on social life, family life, and all of that type of thing.
And I think what we actually discussed before, and Avinash brought up, it's not only affecting maybe our families and social way of working, but actually the social way of working with our colleagues. I mean, what makes this person tick, or what makes this person not tick, would be very good to know. And I think it's not that we have to get back to work. I'm like you, Barry. It's quite fun to go back to work and actually meet people and discuss things, and all of a sudden you find out something you couldn't find out via an email or chat or whatever. But now we have to find that way. We have to work that way. Otherwise, someone else will do it. Yeah. And then we will be number 2 or number 3 or maybe even last. So we have to find a way to actually compensate for that. Meeting people and understanding, and I think that's one big area where you need help. You can't connect to a person on the other side of the world and say, this is the best guy or girl, and how do I get that person to work without actually knowing the background or anything. Maybe in the future, but it's a long way there.
So, a very quick question on this topic itself, right? Both for probably Avinash and Ram. How are you keeping your people engaged? How are you measuring their motivation levels? How are you kind of really ensuring that they're not feeling left out?
Yeah, see, this is a very important question, because please understand now, there is no way in which you can go up to the coffee shop or go to your cafeteria, drink a cup of coffee, vent your frustration. That's not possible. And at the end of the day, go out with your colleague, have a beer. That is not possible. There is no gossiping, right? So there is a lot of issues which are cropping up within the teams, and we have to understand that. So we have started many things. I mean, interesting things, that we have a fun Friday. In the afternoon, 2 hours, the teammates can come and demonstrate. Now with the teams, they can demonstrate whatever talent they have, singing, guitar, whatever it is. So that way, that 2 hours which is well spent. And then we have a counseling group in which people get frustrated because there is personal life which is invaded, the professional life is invaded by sitting. They don't have a proper place to have a silent conference. So there is a counseling, team which we have formed, which actually counsels all the team members in terms of whatever their difficulty they are coping up. And the other aspect is that we also have many other things, like we have created a new thing which I'm going to tell you now. It's called digital fasting. Okay, so what it means is, on the first day of digital fasting, you're going to switch off your cell phone, close your computer, switch off your TV, and spend 1 hour without any of these gadgets. The second day it is 2 hours. The third day it is 3 hours, right? So you have to have that kind of a self-time so that you don't become a slave of digital world, right? And also we have also said that you also should have out of bound for digital equipment. For example, dinner table, right? You don't want to, all the members looking at their phone and, having dinner, not even knowing what they are eating, right? So we are having those kind of, initiatives, and we have a lot of programs which is actually taught online, like online yoga, online laughter. So whatever was there in the physical world, we are trying to bring it to the team so that they will at least have some kind of a fun. Otherwise, it is really, really taxing for people, because many of the youngsters, they do not know how to separate this professional life and personal life, and they need this kind of collaborative and supportive help, which we are doing. And of course, for the COVID reason, we have a first response team. Anybody who has got any symptoms, they can call them before going to the health officials. The company itself provides a lot of help in these kind of areas. So all these things were never thought of before.
So it's very interesting, right? So this open talent economy is going to give rise to so many different micro businesses to support this this entire future of work.
Absolutely.
I would say this just to comment on this, the balance of work life and private life and recovery and things like that. It seems more going back to when the society we were all farmers, taking care of cattle and cows, both Sundays and the other days in the week, and harvesting crop when that was ready, and working in the forest or fishing or something like that. It's the having milk cows was called to have the white whip for someone that needed to be up in the morning at 5 o'clock 7 days a week, and 7 o'clock in the afternoon all days as well. So it gives a responsibility to the individual to plan and do, because we can do that. We don't have milk cows or things like that. We might have customers, but we also have family. We will have other kids and so on that we need to take care of, and friends and so on. So it gives you a responsibility to actually plan your work life and your private life. It's much easier if you sort of check in the office at 8 o'clock in the morning and check out at 5 o'clock in the evening. But now it's up to me stopping work and do something else. Avinash, you raised your hand.
Yes, I just wanted to, very interesting observation you made, because, and I was reflecting on it as well. I think, the shifts and the schedules and, working 5 days a week, and, you start working at 8 o'clock or 7 o'clock and then you work for 8-9 hours. I think we have gotten most of these ever since we started the Industrial Revolution, right? I mean, you needed to work on the floor, you needed to work with, conveyor belt, moving around things, and you need to be there, in different shifts, working and doing things in a certain manner, right? And with information technology coming in, particularly Ram, who has been working with infrastructure area since a very long time, that model never worked, because you want 24/7. You need to have the same expert available at all the 3 slots. It's very hard, and copying the same expert in all the 3 shifts is very difficult. So you need some people who have the flexibility to be available in a certain manner. And I think that is where we are moving. I totally agree with the discussion you're having, and we may find it very disruptive right now. Because we have grown up with that kind of mindset that there has to be a schedule of work, and here you stop and here you start, and that is how it is. But I think we are slowly moving towards a chunk of work. You're going to work for a few hours, then you will take rest. And very interesting, a Uber driver, they have a much better control on their work life than people like us. They decide, I'm, use Uber quite frequently while in India and in other countries. And most of the drivers you talk with, the biggest happiness that they have is about the possibility to start when they want to start and end when they want to end.
Yeah.
And we cannot discount the fact that, that is where people would like to go in the future.
But
and
it's like you said, Avinash, responsibility, I think, is very important here. If you talk about a company that has not used sourced resources, as an example, and that maybe has worked in a traditional way, now all of a sudden you have entered a COVID way of working. And I would say that that's kind of the same rules and challenges you would end up with when you source resources. And you're not we are not so spoiled anymore that you can go into work and everyone is there within the four walls, and you can decide, now we have a meeting, now I talk to that guy. You have to plan, you have to be effective, and working with sourced resources is exactly that same kind of thing, but maybe we have speeded this knowledge up a little now.
And also embraced it more because we have seen that it works in a certain manner.
Thank you. I think we are running a little bit short of time. Sandeep, do you want to try to summarize a little bit of our discussion?
Yeah, so we've already actually come a long way in this way of working, right? And to some extent, it's also just the beginning. We've seen and we've heard that organizations have already adopted this model, right? Like NASA, and then there is the Wellmark, Blue Cross Blue Shield, and Pack Life, right? They've kind of worked in this model. They've embraced it. They've embraced it with a very good focus on doing the cultural change and the process change, and on both sides, which is so important to really adopt. So the way I look at it, this open talent movement is really building a way into the future where crowd, cloud, and AI are really coming together to unlock the entire potential.
Thank you very much. Thank you all. I think we will end by this, and hope to talk to all of you soon again. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you all. Stay safe. Thank you.